Hey everybody. Welcome to our very first Dream Life or Bust book club discussion. We'll be doing this once a month, usually the last day of the month. Next month it's actually going to be closer to the second to last day of the month, just because it's the holidays and I don't want to get in anybody's holiday shit going on, so I don't want to interrupt it. So anyway, welcome. This is our very first one. So today we are discussing Playing the Matrix, which is a book that just came out. It's by Mike Dooley. I chose this as the first book for a couple of reasons. So first, it just came out, like literally just came out October 31st, I think, or something. It came out pretty much a few weeks ago. So I was just thinking, because it was sort of new and I just bought it and I thought it was kind of a book that I've been wanting to read for a while. He had been promoting it for quite a while. So I decided, you know what, that's going to be the first book. Now, I also picked it because it's probably the best one as far as going into the detail of what it really takes to manifest what you want and to create the life of your dreams. And he was breaking down his matrix, which is really this cool little chart, which is on the back of the book. So if you have a copy of the book, you can see it there. It's also inside the book. Not colored like this, but it's inside the book printed as well. So I just thought it was such a cool topic, and I have read all his other books, so I've got 3 of them over there on my shelf. He's got 3 other ones that he wrote about this exact same topic as far as like manifesting and all of that. And so I just thought it's a good book to sort of wrap everything up. And I think even though he has those other books, this one is actually better for somebody who's just starting out with understanding law of attraction and manifestation, because honestly, this breaks it down so clearly that it's almost impossible to not completely understand it after you finish reading. So just to get the discussion started for anyone who actually did read the book with us this month, I would love to know what you thought. So if you want to share in the comments your biggest takeaway, and I'm going to share mine, as well as talk through a couple of the biggest points that I'm taking away from this, and I hope that it will be useful to you. So if you did read and you want to share, feel free to do that. This book club is sort of just getting started, so if you are popping on this live stream and you haven't read the book yet, this is the book, by the way. Yeah, sorry, it's backwards. There may be a way to fix this. I don't really know how to do it, though. Yeah, I have no idea how to do it, so they've changed I don't want to mess anything up, so I'm just going to go, it's backwards today. But I will try to get it not backwards for next time. But anyway, so if you haven't read the book, it's totally fine, because I'm going to talk through what I would think to be kind of the biggest points that I took away. And then hopefully if you enjoy the discussion, you can go get a copy of the book and read it yourself. So if you follow Mike Dooley's writing at all, so I've been following his writing since I watched The Secret back in 2008. He writes the Notes from the Universe, so he has a daily email that goes out called Notes from the Universe. It comes out Monday through Friday, and they're basically just these little short messages that are written from the perspective of the universe, giving you a little download of just something that you need to know about how life works, the magic of manifesting, and just all of that stuff. And I love those emails, because I find that even when I know they're going out to, 750,000 other people, that they always feel like they're handpicked specifically for me. And that's one of the reasons why I love his books, especially because he puts a lot of those notes from the universe in his books as well. So I just thought it's just such a cool way of explaining how manifestation works and teaching people about law of attraction. So anyway, all right. So to kick this off right now, I thought I would start by sharing the 2 biggest takeaways that I'm having from reading this book. So the first one being stay out of the how. So he talked a lot about the idea of the how you're going to achieve something, how you're going to make a goal come to life is never up to us. We don't get to decide that stuff. We just get to take action as much as we possibly can, and the universe decides the official how something is going to come to life. So there's never any stress on our end to really worry about how something's going to happen. The problem is that most of the time that's all we're focusing on is how we're going to do something. So we literally have a goal, let's say to write a novel or to publish a novel, and all we can think about is how are we going to do it? How am I going to get there? What am I going to do? How am I going to publish this thing? How am I going to bring this idea to life? And you're constantly playing in the how of getting to the goal of having this book written or published. And the reason that's not actually the right thing to do is because by focusing on the how, you're getting too much into the detail of what it's going to take. And you don't actually know what it's going to take, because it could take the tiniest little baby steps. It could take years of your life. You don't know. So the how is never really up to you to decide. And a lot of people get so stuck on the how that they never take any action, because they constantly are thinking, I don't know how to get there. I don't know what to do. And so rather than just doing anything they can think of, they just don't do anything. And so it ends up being where they're just completely not taking action, and then they're wondering why they don't have the thing that they want. So he had a quote on page 21 of the book, which I thought was perfect for this piece of the discussion, which is that, again, the hows don't really matter. It's not about the specific how. It's about just doing something every day as much as you possibly can, moving in the general direction of the, where you want to go. And that's being my second biggest takeaway, which is that you have to be general with your end results. And I'm going to get into that more in a second, because I think probably out of this entire book, that is the number one takeaway out of everything, is that you have to be more general. You can't be so specific. And that's exactly what this matrix is all about, was the idea that, you can start with very general terms of what you actually want to create in your life. But then as you start to get more specific, you start to basically close off possibilities and close off opportunities, because you're basically saying it has to be this thing, it has to be this way. And so you're closing off all the other options, which now makes you more limited than if you're just being general and saying, I want to publish a book, but you're not being specific of saying it has to be this book and this idea, and it has to be the first one I've ever written, and putting all these hows on it, basically. So the quote from page 21, which I love, says, "The end in mind forces the details. Thought forces circumstance. You simply have to dream and show up, and perhaps, let's add, have faith, because you pretty much don't get to see your progress until the entire process is complete. Yet you must nevertheless hold on to the vision of your heart's desire and continue to take action on it, however seemingly futile, with nothing to show for it yet." And then on page 23, he continued with another quote, which I thought was interesting as well, which is that even though you don't know the how, you must nevertheless do something. So I really love that, and I think it just goes back to the idea of you never know how a dream is going to come to life. You never know how you're going to make something happen. And so it's never about the specific how. It's always just, what's the next action? What's the next action? And I think that that's the thing that happens for a lot of people, is when they don't know the entire process. They can't see all of the steps to get there. They don't know how it's going to happen. Then they stop themselves from taking any action because they think, well, I don't know what to do. When really, the only thing you ever have to do, and this is something he mentioned on page 24, so kind of going in a row with these 3 pages of the book so far, is that he says, the truth is, it doesn't matter what you do next, so long as you do something to the best of your ability that moves you in the direction that at least makes the most sense given your options. And so that's so key right there, because so much we tell ourselves we have to know every step, we have to know the how, or it's not worth risking it because we're not sure if we'll get there. Well, if you just keep taking action, the next action will present itself, and the next action will present itself. And so it's not about knowing all of the steps. It's just about, what's the first thing I can do? What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think, I'm going to write my novel this year, or I'm going to publish my book? Well, what's the first action that comes to mind for you? Whatever that is, do that action. It doesn't have to be the big how. It may not be the thing that's going to get your book published, but maybe it's the step that becomes the first baby step that builds on the next baby step that builds on the next one. So it's never about big leaps. It's always about just, can you take a baby step? What can you do right now to move forward toward that goal, or toward that general direction if you're not specific enough on the goal yet? And so I just thought that was kind of a cool reframe, and I would love to know what you guys think about this as well. So feel free to comment and share what you think about the whole stay out of the house thing, because I think with manifestation, we tend to get so hung up on the how, and almost we actually start making the how the goal itself. So for example, and he talked about this one in the book as well, let's say you want to be known as a author. That's like your thing. Okay, so then you tell yourself, well, I have to write this book because it's this idea that I've had forever, and it has to be this one, and this is the book that's going to get me to this goal. So my goal is to write this book. And that actually is a how. So you're basically taking a how and you're making it your goal. Another way of thinking about this is like fitness. So people do this a lot with fitness, myself included, is that we'll tell ourselves, I want to get more fit. I want to be fitter. I want to be stronger. So what do I need to do? Well, I need to go to the gym 3 times a week or 5 times a week, and I need to exercise for 30 minutes a day. Those are actually not goals. Those are hows, how we're going to get fit, how we're going to get there. And so what ends up happening is that we tell ourselves our goal is to exercise 5 times a week, or our goal is to go to the gym and work out for 30 minutes every day. And that's the thing we start living by is, oh, I have to do this. It's what I have to do to get fit. But really, there's a million other ways you could get fit without having to do that thing of going to the gym for 30 minutes. Now, you can work out at home. You could take a yoga class. You could ride a bike. You could run. You could walk your dog for an hour every morning. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can get fit, that you can get stronger. So by taking this how of what you think is going to get you there, working out 5 times a week or 30 minutes a day, it becomes your goal. You're actually getting messed up in the hows of how you think you're going to become fit, rather than just focusing on the end result, which is being fit, what you're going to feel like when you are fit, what you're going to look like, what you're going to wear, sort of getting into all the details of what the end result is all about. And so I just thought it was interesting that he brought that up, and the idea of the how is not the goal. The goal is the end result, and the how is just how you get there. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And again, I would love to know what you guys think. So if anyone wants to share what you think about that, feel free. But overall, that was one of my biggest takeaways from reading Playing the Matrix, was that the how is never up to us. We don't have to worry about the how. It's not about the specific how or the specific action you come up with. It's just come up with something and go do that thing. And the more you do that, the more you're going to get clarity on, is this the right direction? Do I actually want to be doing this? Does this feel fun? Or maybe you're like, this is the thing I want to do, and you start taking action, but then you start to realize, oh, this isn't the thing I want to do. So like, for example, when I was 22, I had a jewelry business. So I was making handmade jewelry, and I loved it because I loved fashion and I loved making stuff, and I just thought, this is the business I'm going to have. But after I started doing it and I started getting people making orders and I was actually getting paid to make people jewelry, I started to not like it anymore. I started to get annoyed that I was being forced into having to sit down and make this jewelry now just because someone had ordered it. And so I realized this isn't the business that I want, because I didn't want to spend my time making jewelry and getting paid for it. I just wanted to make it when I felt like it, or when I wanted to make it a gift for somebody, but I didn't want to have it be something I had to do because I was getting paid for it. And so that for me was a clarity on, this is not the business that I want. But I never would have figured that out if I hadn't have taken the action steps of, oh, I got a nudge where I think I might want to make a jewelry business. Okay, so I started making samples and I started putting a website together, and all these little baby steps that led me to this or to the end result, which was having the jewelry business. And then it was not really the thing I wanted. So I was able to get that clarity and then pivot to a new direction, focusing on writing, which of course is a much more aligned thing for me in my life. But again, I wouldn't have gotten there if I hadn't taken the baby steps. So I think letting go of the how and realizing that there is never one way to do something or to achieve something or to get to your endpoint, and just recognize that and to accept that you don't ever have to know all of the steps. You just have to know what the next one is. So ask yourself that. Every time you're heading toward your goal, every time you're thinking about that is, what can I do next? What's the next action? And whatever comes up for you, that's what you go do. And that's it. It's simple. And so I love how he really broke it down in this book and talked about it, because I think that it makes it so much easier to understand how to manifest what we want and how to bring it to life if we actually don't if we don't have the clarity on it. It makes it harder. So it's better when we actually have the clarity, because then we can say, oh, I'm messing with the how. So that was something that helped me a ton, especially with the gym stuff, because I've actually been trying to get into fitness more lately, because it is a goal of mine to be fitter, to be healthier, and of course to be stronger, because I want to be one of those people who's 90 years old and still able to go for walks and go to the gym if I want to and just do that. But I know it starts now and not later, and so that's something I've been working on for myself. But at the beginning, it was the how of, I have to exercise for 30 minutes a day, I have to go 5 days a week. Well, that wasn't very fun for me, and that was me just messing with the hows of getting fit. So now I'm just focused on the end result, feeling better about how I look, being fitter, all of that. And so it helps me to not deal with the how. So every day I just ask myself, what do I feel like doing today? Well, I feel like going to the gym and going on the treadmill. Okay. Or, oh, I feel like dancing. Cool. Or I just want to walk the dog today. Fine. That's what I do. I'm letting go of the how of getting fit, and I'm just whatever's coming up for me every day, that's what I'm doing. Hi, Cece. She says, transcending focus on the how is major for me. I've been working on just that for half a year, but knowledge is power. At least now I'm aware when I focus on how rather than my end goal. Awesome. Yeah, and I think, again, that clarity just helps with being able to do a better job at not getting into the how. And really, if you think about it, it makes it easier because now you're not having to figure out every step. You're not having to judge everything you're doing and asking yourself, is this the thing that's going to get me there? Is this the thing that's... Because I think that happens to us a lot too, is we want to take an action, but we're like, is this the right action? Is this the action that's going to get me there? Or is it going to just be another stepping stone? Is this something I really need to be doing? And so it's like, if we stop judging the action and we just take whatever action comes to us, then we're actually able to start to have clarity on what we actually want, and we can move in the direction that we're going and have that end result without having to force ourselves into, it has to be this path, because there are a million ways to get where you want to go. So my next takeaway, like I said, probably the biggest takeaway from this book was that I finally realized that the idea of not having a very specific end result. So like I said, on the back of the cover is a matrix that he talks about, and he talks about it in a whole chapter of the book as well, how it breaks down. And so how this thing actually works is the left side is general. So the left side is, what are the general things, general end results that people would want in their life? Well, happiness being the number one thing. So all the people in the world, that's the general end result that they're after. Now, they might call it other things, or they may think other things are going to get them what they really want, but it's all general. So he talks about being on the general side of things because it allows you to not be too specific. Because when you're too specific, you're closing off opportunities, you're closing off other avenues for what you want to come to you. So if you tell yourself that you can only be happy if you are a best-selling New York Times author and you've got 50 books published and you are known all over the world. Well, if that is your specifics for how you're going to create your happiness, then you're going to be unhappy probably, because not that you can't do those things, you absolutely can, but if you're allowing your happiness to be attached to receiving those things and those things happening, then it's conditional. And it basically means that if you don't get those things, or if you don't achieve them, then you'll never have happiness. And it's only based on the condition of you having those specific things. So you're actually cutting off the possibility of being happy by making yourself so focused on those specifics. And so he talked about the right side of the matrix being, these are the specifics. These are the, it has to be this person, this way, this thing, and it cuts off all the other possibilities. So he recommends in the book that especially in the beginning, you start off being very general with what you want. So it's, I want to be happy. I want to be financially abundant. I want to have a job that I absolutely love. I want to do work that fills me up. I want to be creative every day. I want to, have lots of friends. It's not about, it has to be these specific 5 friends, or it has to be this specific job, because that, again, closes off possibility. And, of course, it can wreak havoc on your happiness, because if you're telling yourself that you have to be this thing and you have to do this thing and have this thing in order to be happy, then you're creating the conditions of this is the only way I can be happy. So I really loved the distinction that he made about being general and about focusing on, in general, what you want, as opposed to constantly telling yourself it has to be this specific car and this specific thing. And because it could be a lot of things. There are a million different cars out there. There are a million different jobs and different ways you can earn money. So why limit yourself to it has to be these specific things? And I really love that idea. And it's something that I've been playing with a lot the last few weeks, is just sort of writing out generally what it is that I want. So before, I used to write more specifics, like, I want to be a New York Times bestselling author, and I want to be a Hollywood screenwriter, and which is fine, because it's fine to have those sort of goals as part of your details, but not getting attached to them being the way to get to the end result, which is financial abundance, creativity every day, being happy. Those are just hows, again. And so I've started playing more just generally thinking, okay, what do I in general want? And one of the things I came up with was financial abundance. I would like to have financial abundance in my life. It doesn't have to come from a certain place. So before it was, I have to be a 6-figure author, and I have to, okay, and maybe that will still happen. Maybe that is going to happen for me. But if I'm conditionally saying that the only way I can have financial abundance is to be a 6-figure author, well, that's limiting, because what about all these other things I could be doing? What about writing screenplays? What about writing stage plays? What about being a consultant for a movie because I know how to do storytelling? I mean, who knows? There's a lot of other ways that could come to life, that I could be financially abundant without having to be a 6-figure author. So yes, it's a goal that I would have, but it's not something that has to be so specific that you lose sight of all the other possibilities that are out there. And so I love that he talked about that. And again, like I said, I feel it is the biggest takeaway for me. And again, I would love to know what you guys had as your biggest takeaway from reading this. But for me, it was definitely that, because I think I've been very specific, and I think it helps sometimes, but it also hinders sometimes. And so how I'm interpreting what he's saying about the whole be specific, don't be specific thing is this, basically. If being specific feels good to you, if picking that one thing where it's like, this is the only thing I'm ever gonna want as far as like a car or a whatever, well, if that actually makes you happy, it makes you feel good to focus on the specific of that one thing, then do it. Because you're gonna manifest it easier because you're connected to it, you feel good about it, and you have that emotional connection there. Whereas if you're finding that being that specific makes you feel paranoid and you're like a little bit stressed out and you're like, oh my God, how am I ever gonna make the kind of money to buy a car like that? And oh my God, can I even do this? And it starts having that specific detail starts to make you freak out and panic and have anxiety, then that's not something you wanna be. You wanna be more general in that case, because otherwise you're not giving the right emotion to the situation, and it's just gonna work against you. So the example that I came up with recently when I was writing about this actually was, okay, so if I know my dream car, it's a Jeep Wrangler. That's the exact car I want. I've always wanted it my entire life. It's my dream car. And I'm not willing to accept any other car but that as my dream car. So that for me is a specific, and it would be on the right side of the matrix. So it's very specific. It's cutting off all other possibilities and options. But I'm okay with that because that's my dream car. It's the car I love. It's the only car I've ever wanted. It's the only car I actually care about having. And in the meantime, so because it's specific, I know I have to be patient. I know it's going to take longer, but I'm okay with that because I know that that's where I'm heading and that's my end result. So for the time being, whatever car I have, I have. I don't worry about it. I don't stress about it. I don't, oh my God, like, am I going to get the car I want if I buy this car instead? No, I just know that when I'm ready for that car, I will have it and it'll be mine, and I don't worry about it. For me, the being specific on the car is okay. But if it wasn't, so if I felt like, oh my God, if I focus on this is the only vehicle that I want, then, oh my God, the car I have now isn't good enough. And, but, oh my God, what about this? And then I'm not feeling good about it anymore. So in that case, I need to be general, and I need to just say that I want a new car that has low miles, that is going to get me from point A to point B without having to worry about it, that I'm not going to have to call AAA, and just being more general about the thing that you want as opposed to being more specific. So to me, it's about, does it feel good to you? Because at the end of the day with manifestation, it's always going to come down to what feels good. And if it doesn't feel good, then it doesn't matter how hard you push, you're never going to get there because the feeling is what matters. And so if you're being more general and that feels good, then that's awesome. This works really well, I think, with money, especially because I think a lot of times we panic about money and we think like, oh my God, how am I going to make the money I want? And you tell yourself, oh, I'm going to make $100,000 from my books this year, and whatever goal you have. But because you've put a number to it, you've made it so specific that all these emotions are going to come up from it. Either you're going to start to feel doubt, fear, oh my God, how can I do this? Like, there's no way. What am I? But if you just be general about it and you just say, I want to have financial abundance, and that's it, then that feels better because you're not worried about the number specifically. You're not worried about, oh my God, it has to be $100,000 a year, or it has to be, no, financial abundance could mean millions of dollars a year. It could mean billions of dollars a year. So why close yourself off and only ask for $100,000 a year if you could have more? So, and again, this is not really a money discussion, but it's just the idea of money being a topic where people have a lot of emotional triggers. So it's really good to be more general in that category for that reason. So that's something I'm working on lately, is writing out in my journal every day, I am financially abundant, as opposed to I make $1 million a year or whatever I've been writing. So it's less specific, but it feels better. And so I think that really, for me, is the message I'm taking away from this book is the Matrix is all about how to manifest what you want. Being more general is always better if you feel like the specifics are making it too hard for you to believe, where you're not having that emotional connection anymore, or it's just flat out making you panic, then you're better being general. Whereas if the specifics actually feel good to you and you feel like, I feel like I'm on the right track, this is the business I want, I'm loving my life, I'm doing creative stuff, I'm excited about it, and I'm making money, and it's so great, well then being specific and saying that this is the business that you want to use to get your financial abundance is okay, because again, you're feeling good about it, and the specific is actually adding joy and value to your life as opposed to taking away from it. So that's how I interpreted it. But I thought it would be cool to do one of the exercises. So there was a ton of exercises in this book, and you could probably go back and do all of them. But on page 93, he had one that was very much based on creating general goals. So what is it you want in general? And so I just thought it'd be fun if we want to take a minute and just sort of think about this for ourselves. And if you want to share in the comments, feel free. Of just, he talks about what are your highest priority areas for change or transformation. So what would you love to change in your life currently? So maybe it's your money situation, maybe it's your work situation, maybe it's your health, maybe it's your friendships, or maybe you just haven't been having as many friends lately as you want to. Maybe your creativity isn't where you want it to be. So how can you ask in general for what you want in these categories without being specific to it has to be this thing, it has to be this thing. So take a minute and just, if you have the book, you can go to page 93 where the exercise starts, and he actually has, you can fill it out right in the book. Otherwise, just get a piece of paper or a notebook or something, and just take a minute to write down one area. Let's just do one. So one area you would love to transform in your life right now. So write that area down. I'm going to say for me, it's health. So definitely that's an area that I've been working on. It's an area that I know I have the most resistance to because I love to eat junk food and I love to be lazy and not work out. So that's one of the areas for me that I would like to improve. Now, rather than being very specific like I have been in the past and saying I have to do these things in this way, I'm being more general. So write down your category, like I said, and for you it could be anything. And if you want to share, go ahead. But now, rather than being very specific on what it is you want in this area, be general about it. So how can you do that? Make a list right now of 2 or 3 things that are general about what it is that you want. Just one area, that's too specific. It's just an example. You could go through all of the areas, so you don't have to just pick one. He has a list here for 5 areas, so you could go through 5 areas. I'm just doing one because this live stream is, a live stream, and I don't want to make it too long. But I definitely thought it'd be fun to do this exercise. So pick your area right now, and you can always go back and do more areas. This is just for the sample of this exercise. Like I said, my area is gonna be health. And now just write down 1 or 2 general things you want in that area. So just take a minute to do that, and then I will share mine. Drinking water, by the way. I came up with this idea recently where I'll drink more water if I drink it out of a fancy wine glass. So that's what I've been doing this week. It helps. That's one of my hows for how I'm drinking more water and being more healthy. Okay, so your general area, whatever area you chose, what are your things? Feel free to share. So for me, I would say in my area of health that I would love to be fitter. So I would love to be, toned and have the size that I want. I would love to also be stronger. So that is a huge one for me, is being stronger so that I don't get back pain anymore, so that I can lift things if I want to lift things, so that I can, just do the things I want to do and not be freaking out, not being able to handle it, being winded and things like that. I would love to start riding my bike more often when I get one. So I would love to be strong enough to be able to handle that, because you do need stamina to ride a bike for a long period of time. So for me, that's one of my general focus ends. My focus endpoint is just being stronger. And that alone is enough, because it's something that, helps you to move forward in your life and get fitter and have the health that you want, but you're not being specific on how you're going to get there. And something else that I've sort of gotten from exercising lately too is that the recognition of when I do go to the gym or when I exercise, that it actually shakes loose a lot of creative ideas I have and writing stuff. And so now I've got this additional motivation to go, because I find that there's a connection between the whole moving my body and getting the creative ideas. So I find that to be very helpful. Discipline is your area. I need to practice delayed gratification. Okay, but see, that's a how now. So don't come up with what you need to do. It's just what's the end result of the discipline. So maybe it's you're writing every single day. That's your end result. I'm writing every single day. Now, how you're going to get there doesn't matter specifically. It's not what is the step I need to take. It's just what do you want in that area. So in your area of discipline, which I don't know if that's really the area. I think the area is probably like creativity or just productivity. And that discipline is one of the ways you'll get there. So it's sort of a how. And so the general thing I would say is, what do you generally want in that area? Well, I want to be more productive every day, or I want to just write every single day. If I'm writing every day, then I know I'm doing that end result. And don't worry about how you'll get there. So that's what I would recommend for that. But that's how you do the exercise. And I think it's a lot of fun. I've been doing it the last few days, especially just in my journal, writing out general end results for things, not being specific in any way, even though like I still have specifics in mind, obviously, but I'm trying to be general about it and just focus on what is the general thing. And one of the cool things that came from that exercise for me was that I basically, yes, I want to be more productive. Exactly. So focus on what is the general end result, which is more productivity. And how you'll measure that is, are you getting XYZ things done? But the actual what you want is the more productivity. So that's your in general end result that you're going to focus on. And how you get there is going to be a day-to-day thing. So every day you're going to ask yourself, what do I need to do today to be more productive? Whatever comes to you, you go take that action. And that's it. Very simple. But yeah, so for me, one of the things that I discovered when I asked myself, well, okay, because constantly I'm writing down, this is what I'm here to do, this is my purpose, this is my soul work, and I'm constantly writing specific things. And so I asked myself, what in general, if I was to talk generally about what I feel is my purpose with my writing and all of that, what is it that is my general direction? And what came out was that it's to be a storyteller and an entertainer. So I entertain through my storytelling, through the books that I write, through the videos I create, and anything else I decide to put out there for entertainment purposes. So, so that for me was the general end result of what my purpose in life is. It's to be a storyteller and an entertainer. So that's the general description of it. And I don't think I would have come up with that if it wasn't for this exercise of being more general. So I'm really excited about it, and I'm excited to just explore the idea of not having to be so specific all the time and to just be more general about what I want. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out in general with manifesting things. So a really cool tip, and definitely my biggest takeaway from this book. So there was just one other thing I wanted to mention before I wrap this up, and then I'm also going to share what the book is for next month as well, because I picked that out already. But something that happens a lot to us, I think, when we are in the process of creating something, in the process of achieving something, or have this big end goal that we want to create, we'll start to look around and we tell ourselves it's not working. We're constantly looking around, it's not working. Nothing is showing up, nothing is happening, it's not working. And this is, I feel like, the bane of everyone's existence, because we're taught that what we see with our physical senses is what's true, but it's actually not true. So what we see with our physical senses is actually the past. So what we're seeing right now is a result of all our past ways of thinking and action taking. And so if you don't see what you want right now, it's just because up to this point you hadn't been thinking about it, you hadn't been focusing on it or acting on it. And so now is the time to do that. But if you have been acting on it and you have been taking action every day, and this is what he talks about in here, but you aren't seeing what you want still, it's still not there, it's still voided in your, reality is not actually there. Well, a couple of things. First of all, and this is what he says on page 136, we don't usually know about most miracles until long after they've happened. This is where faith through understanding comes in. This is life's greatest hook, requiring us to behave in line with our dreams, not with what our physical senses are showing us. So totally just dead on way of describing that. But the whole thing is that if you see something in your mind and you can feel it in your heart, then it's real. And even if you don't see it with your eyes yet, you will if you just keep taking action toward it and keep believing that you can have it and believing that's possible. You have no clue how close you are to the thing you're wanting until it comes through. And suddenly you have it, it's yours, you're holding it in your hands, and now you can look back and see all of the things that led you to this point. But until that breakthrough moment happens, it looks like nothing is going on. It looks like crickets, it looks like nothing. And then boom, one day you just have the thing, it's there, and suddenly it's a completely different life. So that, I think, is another big takeaway, is that you have to just keep going. You have to just trust that what you want is happening, that if you're moving toward it every day in some way and being general about the end result, that you will get there, and that it will be amazing and it will be everything you've ever wanted. But until you get there, it's going to look like nothing is happening. And so this is when you have to just have faith, you have to keep taking action, and you have to keep reminding yourself of this, that you'll see it in your physical reality as the final piece of the puzzle. It's like everything else happened, and now you can see it in your reality. And sometimes it happens faster, and sometimes it happens slower. It all just depends on what the end result is, how specific you're being or unspecific you're being, and how much action you're taking. So you don't have to take massive action. He talked about this in this book as well. Baby steps are enough to reach the universe, but you can't want something and sit on your ass, because if you do that, what ends up happening is that nothing happens, especially because you're not doing anything. The universe cannot reach you with its magic when you're sitting on your ass not doing anything. So you have to be taking action. You have to be playing on the field somehow, but you don't have to be being huge. You don't have to do huge things. It can be very small baby steps. Okay, I want financial abundance. Great, what can you do right now in this moment to get there? Well, I could sell a bunch of crap that I've had forever and I don't need anymore. Perfect, go do that. Next thing, okay, I want financial abundance. What can I do to get there? Well, I could return a bunch of things I purchased that I have the receipts for still and I haven't returned yet. Perfect, go do that. I want financial abundance. Okay, what can you do today to move toward it? And it's literally just baby step actions. Oh, I could pay that bill that I forgot to pay a while ago, or I could open that, credit card statement that I've been ignoring because I'm afraid of the total. Little tiny baby steps, and suddenly it changes something. Suddenly you do that one thing, and now this money comes in that you weren't expecting, or you get a new client, or whatever. So it's like, what baby step can you take right now from where you are and keep moving forward? The result of getting your end result never comes from a linear process. It's never do this, then this, then this, and this, and you'll get there. It's always like do this and backtrack a few steps and go here and then go over here. And it never looks the way you think it will. But then when you get there and you look back, you're like, holy shit, it's perfect. It's exactly what I needed to do to get here. So yeah, dwell on the end result, be general about it, and stay out of the how. So that for me was the biggest takeaways from reading Playing the Matrix. And I hope you enjoyed the book. If you haven't read it, I would highly recommend getting a copy and checking it out, because I think, especially if you're interested in manifesting and how to bring your dreams to life, that it helps to have the very specific information that he gives in this book about being general, about, not focusing on the how. Inch by inch, it's a cinch. Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. Can I like that comment? Yes. I don't know if I can like that comment, but awesome. I'm going to go here, I can like it. There we go. Cool. So thank you so much for joining me for this discussion, guys. I hope it was useful for you, and I hope that you do go check out Playing the Matrix, because it's a fantastic book in a series of really great books about manifesting. I think this one was probably the most useful as far as the information, because it was very general, but in a way that made it easy to understand, whereas his other books dive a lot deeper into this stuff. I'm not saying don't read those, you totally should, because they're awesome. But I think if you're just sort of getting into the manifestation thing, this is a great book to check out, because it does give you the information that you need without giving you all this extra stuff on top of it. It's literally just, these are the basics. This is how you get what you want. So definitely check that out. So now I'm going to share the book for next month. So I luckily had the opportunity to meet this author back in October. So I went to an event that my client was hosting called Infinite Receiving Live. And she was one of the speakers, the author of this book. And I thought it would be a great book to read for December, because it's one of those books that I think gives you so much cool ways of thinking about stuff, and just sort of reframes stuff that you may have in the past thought negatively about. And I thought that it was just kind of a cool way to wrap up the year. So the book is called Wake Up to the Joy of You. This is the book right here. Sorry that it's backwards. Her name is Agape Stassinopoulos. She is the sister of Arianna Huffington. So if you've ever heard of Arianna Huffington, this is her sister. She is a best-selling author. This is like her third or fourth book now. And I, like I said, had the opportunity to meet her last month. She was amazing. Such a sweet lady. So freaking amazing, powerful, had so many great stories to share. And she's had a very interesting life. So I thought that this would be a cool book to read for December. Now, the way this book is set up, it's made so that you read it over the course of a year. So she has 52 different pieces in there that are sort of short and sweet little vignettes, and then little questions at the end that you can do, or meditations. So how I'm going to do this is that I'm just going to read the whole book. I'm going to leave it up to however I feel, whether I want to actually do some of the meditations or answer the questions that she has in here. But I'm going to read it over the 31 days in December, and we're going to talk about it on December 29th, actually. So I scheduled that already, 2 p.m. Central Time. So if you want to join us, Wake Up to the Joy of You. We're going to read that for December. And like I said, you don't have to do all of the exercises that are in it. You don't have to do the meditations. It's more just to read the 52 vignettes that she's put together because they're interesting and they have a lot of good advice in them. And I just think it's kind of a cool perspective to end the year with. So that's going to be the book for the Dream Life Robust Book Club for December. And there will be a link on my website tomorrow if you want to grab a copy for yourself, or you can go to Amazon and do it right now. And yeah, I'm excited to talk about this with you guys because I think that she's such a fantastic author and person, and she was such a joy to get to meet and just to be part of her energy in person that I'm really excited to dive into this book. And I'm lucky enough to have a signed copy, so I don't know if you can see that, but she signed it for me when I was at the event. And yeah, so I love getting to meet authors. It's really fun. So yeah, so that is the Dream Life Robust book discussion for this month, and we are starting again next month with, again, Wake Up to the Joy of You. And this has nothing to do with reading these books necessarily, but if reading books is something you're interested in, or writing about books is something you're interested in, or any other topics that you want to write about, be sure to check out the workshop that I have coming up on Saturday. So I'm doing a workshop that's happening for one day. It's just a couple-hour workshop. It's a master class that I'm doing, and it's all about how to combine multiple interests or topics onto one blog or website. So if you are a multi-passionate person, if you have lots of things you want to write about and lots of interests, but you're not sure how to put them all together into one blog so that you can do all of it in one place and not have to have a blog about this and a blog about that and a blog about this, then be sure to check this workshop out because I am going to show you everything you need to know to take all of these different topics and ideas and just passions that you have and combine them into one site so that you have a very focused and connected way of going out there and writing about what you want to write about. So you can check that out by going to dreamlifeorbust.com/blogging workshop, and I'll put a link in the comments. Thanks for joining me for this workshop, or for this book discussion / workshop. I guess you could call it a workshop. Go back and do the exercises from Playing the Matrix if you want to do more in general, focusing on what your end results are, because that book is amazing and it has tons of really good just exercises in it. And then we are, of course, reading Wake Up to the Joy of You for December. So thanks for joining me, guys, and I will catch you in a month. Bye.